Let's get more now. We can talk to Nick Freeman, a motoring lawyer. You might know him as Mr. Loophole. He joins us this morning. Nick, thank you for being here. First of all, what's your advice to anyone affected by this?
Well, every case depends on its circumstances. I didn't hear all of your intro, but the problems come about because of a new company, a new provider taking over in July of last year. And the new company is responsible for identifying vehicles, and that obviously relates to number plates, and there's been huge problems with number plate
recognition, yeah.
Processing and the account management. Many already have accounts, and they should have received emails telling them there's going to be a change of provider, and they have a legal obligation. The provider has a legal obligation to ensure that their new customers are happy to have their accounts validated. And I think this is where a huge problem has arisen, because some people haven't received the emails, they've gone to junk, the email addresses have been changed. And I think statistically about a third, I think 700,000 of 1.7 million have actually updated their accounts, and the rest haven't. So it's and the other problem, which actually calls for illegal changes, these PCNs, these tickets don't have to be issued within a certain time limit. So several of them are issued months later, and that allows them to accumulate and get into the ridiculous sort of numbers we're talking about. Now, if you go through a camera, or you commit a speeding offence, or an offence of that sort, most road traffic offences, you have to receive a notice of intended prosecution within 14 days. And in my view, the law must be changed in relation to this situation, so that, first of all, you're not going to accumulate a ridiculous number of tickets. You're going to be put on notice straight away that actually there's a problem and you can deal with it. So going back to your question, what is my advice? The moment you need to check your accounts validated, you need to do that from now on if you haven't already done so. There should have been huge publicity about this on the gantries. There haven't. So there are technical problems. And just to sort of put your listeners at rest, National Highways have granted almost a third of all appeals. So almost a third, I think the exact statistics, something like 31.75%. So people have genuine grievances, and they've been looked upon sympathetically when the appeal process has been started. You have 28 days to lodge an appeal, and you need to appeal it. You can do it online, and you need to supply all the information that you have. It might be a number plate, it might be an account that you have, and you've assumed that payment will be taken. You need obviously to check your junk emails. If the appeal is rejected, you then can go to an independent adjudicator. And, ultimately, if you have a genuine grievance and you've been dealt with unfairly, and it's not a case that you've simply buried your head, you will succeed. However, many of your listeners, unfortunately, have buried their head. They've not dealt with the problem for possibly very good reasons. But it's the worst thing you can do. The moment you are put on notice, then it's your responsibility to make sure that payment comes out of your account. So you have to follow the process. You make representations. As I say, there's a fairly good chance of success. For your listeners now, make sure your accounts have been validated by the new provider. It's a company called Conduent. And the fines that were issued in the 3 months before the new company took over was something like 195,000 a month. They averaged 195,000 a month. After the new company took over, they rose by 50%.
Wow.
It is now stabilizing. The situation is settling down. Many people have had their fixed penalty notices set aside, their PCN set aside. So there is now some equilibrium. But the advice is, whatever you get, don't ignore it. You can appeal it. Make sure you have all the available evidence. Sometimes, your car number plate might be twinned. Sometimes the equipment wrongly reads your number plate. So whatever this particular situation, there's so many different scenarios that can arise. Make sure you deal with it. Make sure every time you go through, the payments come out of your account.
Nick, very, very sound advice. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Nick Freeman there. And as you've heard, to put your mind at rest, most of the appeals, he says, are granted. If you can prove that you thought that you were paying, you thought your account was up to date, but obviously it wasn't, then hopefully things will be absolutely fine.